Harry Potter story from another's perspective. Rowan Barrows and the Forgotten Prophecy. Chapter 14. The Grey Squire. The strange vanishing room was always quite quiet. A draught whispered through broken cupboards and forgotten furniture, stirring dust into lazy spirals. In the far corner, the two boys sat cross-legged in front of a battered old chest that had, so far, refused to give up a single secret. Rowan leaned closer, wand in hand. "Alohomora," he muttered for what must have been the 20th time. Nothing, not so much as a rattle. Ollie, sitting beside him with his chin on his knees, gave a long dramatic sigh. "You know, if you keep saying it, it might eventually open from boredom." Rowan ignored him. He ran a hand slowly along the edge of the chest, fingers brushing over the tarnished metal fittings and layers of settled dust. Up close, the chest never looked quite the same twice. At first glance it seemed ordinary enough, old, scuffed, iron-bound and stubbornly sealed shut. But the longer Rowan stared at it, the stranger it became. The symbol carved around the lock shifted faintly beneath the candlelight. Not moving exactly. More rearranging itself at the edge of his vision. Thin circles intertwined with unfamiliar markings, lines folding into other lines before settling somewhere different when he blinked. Every time Rowan tried to focus on one shape, another seemed to emerge beneath it, as though the chest was quietly rewriting itself while no one was looking. "It has to open somehow," Rowan said. "Everything does." "Perhaps it just doesn't want to," Ollie replied. "Maybe it's hiding from us. If I were a mysterious chest in a creepy secret room, I'd do the same." Rowan and Ollie had started making their way back toward the Hufflepuff common room, weaving through the quieter evening corridors while Rowan continued throwing increasingly questionable ideas into the air. "What if the chest only opens at a certain time of day?" Rowan suggested. Ollie sighed heavily beside him. "Wonderful." Rowan ignored him. "Or maybe it needs another spell first." "You already tried Alohomora so many times, I'm surprised the chest hasn't started mocking your pronunciation." Rowan frowned. "There has to be something we're missing." The castle was quieter now. Most students already gathered at dinner. Their footsteps echoed softly against the stone as they rounded another corner. Then, like a spark catching fire in the back of his mind, Rowan stopped dead. "Hagrid!" Ollie nearly walked into him. "What about Hagrid?" Rowan's eyes widened slightly as the memory settled into place. Their very first journey to Hogwarts, boats crossing the Black Lake, Hagrid's enormous voice rumbling over the water. "Got more keys than I know what to do with. Half of them I've no idea what they open." Rowan looked up sharply. "He's the keeper of keys," he said quickly. "I remember overhearing him say he's got loads of them. Hundreds, maybe. Some he doesn't even know what they're for." Ollie stared at him for a second. Then slowly, "No." "What?" Rowan replied. "No," Ollie repeated firmly. "Absolutely not. Whatever thought just appeared in your head, get rid of it." "But think about it," Rowan insisted, already talking faster now that the idea had taken hold. "The chest is ancient, right? And Hogwarts has loads of old locks and hidden rooms and things. What if one of Hagrid's keys fits it?" Ollie frowned. "So, what exactly are you suggesting?" Rowan hesitated only slightly. "That we borrow them." Ollie stopped walking entirely. "Borrow?" he repeated flatly. "Yes." "Borrow," Ollie said again, like he was testing whether the word sounded less criminal the second time. Rowan grinned weakly. "Not exactly ask. More temporarily relocate." Ollie groaned loudly, dragging a hand down his face. "Ah, yes," he muttered. "Borrowing. The polite word for stealing. Lovely. We wouldn't keep them. That's your defence? We'd give them back. After committing several school rules and probably at least one crime." Rowan kept walking, though he was clearly trying not to smile now. "You said yourself we need the key." Ollie let out another long sigh. though Rowan noticed he hadn't actually refused yet. That usually meant he was already considering it. "You realise," Ollie said carefully, "that Hagrid is enormous." Rowan nodded. "And lives beside the Forbidden Forest." Another nod. Ollie looked horrified. "You're saying all of this like it improves the plan." Rowan shrugged. "It's not the worst idea we've had." Ollie stopped again and pointed at him accusingly. "That's the worrying part. The fact you genuinely believe that." They descended another staircase, torchlight flickering gold across the walls. For a moment neither spoke. Then Ollie muttered, "Hypothetically, if we were committing this incredibly stupid crime, how exactly would we even find the right key?" Rowan blinked, then smiled slowly. "You're considering it." "I'm preparing for survival," Ollie corrected quickly. "Very different thing." But Rowan could already hear it in his voice. Curiosity. The same thing that always got both of them into trouble. Ollie started his sarcastic comments again. "Ah, yes, the quest for the lost key." Rowan was about to reply when a sharp clang rang through the wall. Both boys jumped. Straight from the wall, a gleaming visor appeared, followed by the faint shimmer of chainmail and a puffed-up chest. A spectral knight stepped forward, sword raised dramatically. "I heard the word quest," he boomed, "and where there is questing, there must be I." Ollie fell backwards into the wall, looking terrified. "Who are you?" "Sir Garrick Fairweather at your service." The grey squire beamed. His armour flickered with faint silver light as he drew himself up to full height. "Two gallant youths, plotting. By my honour, it warms what's left of my heart." Rowan winced. "Oh, Ollie, this is the grey squire. I bumped into him when looking for the library." "Wait, we weren't exactly plotting." "Nonsense," declared the squire, cutting the air with his sword. "You have the look of heroes about you, faces lit with purpose, hands smudged with destiny, and, if I may, trousers that could use a wash." Ollie groaned. "Nice to meet you, but could you keep your voice down? I don't exactly fancy getting in trouble with Filch again." The squire ignored him entirely and stepped closer, lowering his sword in a grand sweeping salute. "State thy noble cause, young Barrows. Swear it before the banners of valour and the flickering flame of justice." At this point, Rowan had come up with an idea that maybe the grey squire might actually be able to help. Rowan blinked. "We just need to, borrow a key." "A key?" The squire's eyes shone. "A humble object, yet off the beginning of the greatest adventures. I, Sir Fairweather of the lower corridor, pledge my aid to thee," Ollie muttered. "Wait, how can he be a sir if he's only a squire?" The squire ignored him and puffed out his ghostly chest. "Now what foul beast guards this treasure you seek?" "Hagrid," Ollie said flatly. The squire froze. "The half-giant?" He gave a respectful nod. "A worthy foe. Many a valiant knight has fallen to the peril of conversation with that one." Rowan pinched the bridge of his nose. "We don't want to fight him. We just need to borrow something. Quietly." "Ah!" The squire's eyes gleamed. "A stealth mission. Cunning and guile. Very well. I shall distract the enemy with a ballad of heroism and confusion." "No ballads," Rowan said quickly, but the squire was already warming up his voice. "Oh, brave are the boys of the Hufflepuff halls, who sneak through the dark and bump into walls." Ollie waved his arms. "Stop! You'll get us caught before we even start." The squire looked mildly offended. "A fine song silenced in its infancy. Tragic. Not yet, we'll need to be careful. If Filch catches us, we're done for." "Filch!" cried the squire, clearly delighted. "A cunning adversary, fear not. I shall guard the corridors with my life." "You're dead," Ollie pointed out. "With my afterlife, then," the squire replied grandly. Rowan and Ollie exchanged a look. "Fine," Rowan said finally. "But keep quiet. Tomorrow night we'll meet at the Hufflepuff Barrels." "I am the very soul of discretion," the squire whispered, loudly enough to make a nearby chair creak. Ollie groaned. "We're doomed." The squire dropped to one knee, ghostly hand over his heart. Sir Rowan of Hufflepuff, he said solemnly, I, the Grey Squire, do swear my service to you in this noble endeavour. By my sword, my honour, and my slightly dented helmet, I am thine to command. Rowan shifted awkwardly. Thanks. Rise, Sir Ollie, the squire added. Faithful companion to our bold knight. Ollie looked horrified. I'm already standing. I refuse to be anyone's squire. Excellent spirit, the squire declared, entirely missing the point. Onward, comrades. Tomorrow our quest awaits. And before either of them could stop him, he vanished through the nearest wall with a dramatic flourish of his sword. Ollie rubbed his temples. You cannot be serious. He's going to wake up half the castle. Rowan answered determinedly. Exactly. If Filch is distracted by him, we'll be able to slip right past him. Ollie sighed. Then we'd better get back and start planning for tomorrow. The next night Rowan and Ollie were waiting outside the Hufflepuff barrels as planned. Somewhere down the corridor, faintly, came a voice echoing off the stone. Onward, noble hearts, to destiny, and possibly detention. The Grey Squire did not believe in stealth. By the time he reached Rowan and Ollie, the ghost's voice was already echoing off the walls. Make way! Noble heroes on a mission of valour! Shh! Rowan hissed. Ollie groaned, clutching his head. We're dead. Actually dead this time. You'll be a ghost, I'll be a ghost, and we'll have to haunt the same corridors as him. Rowan hissed, Squire! Stop shouting, please! But the squire, floating several feet ahead, ignored them completely. He swept through the armour gallery, sword raised, and accidentally sent a suit of armour tumbling with a deafening clang. The sound bounced down the corridor like a cannon shot. Filch will hear you, Ollie hissed. As if summoned by the name, a flicker of lamplight appeared at the far end of the hallway. The boys froze. Rowan could just make out the caretaker's hunched silhouette. Thin shoulders, limp hair, a lantern swinging from his hand. Beside him slunk Mrs. Norris, eyes gleaming gold in the dark. Wonderful, Ollie muttered. We're done for. But the squire, floating between them and Filch, suddenly puffed up like a stage actor spotting an audience. Aha! He bellowed. A villain approaches! Prepare thyself, foul prowler of the corridors! Filch stopped dead. His mouth opened in disbelief. Who's there? Mrs. Norris arched her back and hissed at the empty air. The squire charged. Have at thee, shadowy miscreant, face me if you dare, Filch yelped, lantern swinging wildly. Ghosts, filthy meddling ghosts. Rowan grabbed Ollie's arm. Now, go. They sprinted down a side corridor, hearts hammering, while the squire's triumphant war cry echoed after them. For glory, for honour, for oh, he's running away, coward! They ducked through a door, down a staircase, and out into the courtyard before daring to breathe again. Cold night air hit Rowan's face, sharp and clean. The moon hung pale above the towers. Down the hill, the windows of Hagrid's hut glowed like amber eyes against the dark. Ollie doubled over, panting. I take it back. That ghost is a genius. Rowan grinned despite himself. Unintentional genius, but I'll take it. They crept across the grass, keeping low. The ground was slick with frost. Their shoes made soft crunching sounds in the silence. From inside the hut came the muffled clatter of pans and the deep, rumbling hum of Hagrid's voice. Some song about barrels and giants and suspicious quantities of ale. Keys will be inside, Rowan whispered, maybe hanging up near the door. And half-giant also hanging up near the door, Ollie muttered. We can't just walk in. Rowan crouched by the window. Through the frosted glass he could just make out Hagrid sitting at the table, a huge lump of something scaly wrapped in blankets by the fire. Rowan frowned. Is that moving? The bundle shifted. A spiked tail flicked out. Ollie's eyes widened. He's got a dragon, Rowan stared. That can't be. The dragon sneezed. Sparks sprayed the hearth. He's got an actual dragon, Ollie repeated. Rowan swallowed hard. Okay, it's a dragon. Brilliant, Ollie whispered. We're breaking into a hut guarded by a man the size of a troll and his pet flamethrower. I take everything back. This was a great idea. Let me get a closer look. They watched through the frosted glass as Hagrid gently scratched the creature's head with a huge fireproof glove, cooing something that sounded suspiciously like, "Who's a clever Norbert?" "Norbert?" Ollie questioned, as if he thought Norbert wasn't a very good name for a dragon. Ollie sighed. "Okay, what's the plan?" Rowan chewed his lip. "We wait till he's asleep, slip in, take the key, and get out before that dragon decides we look tasty." "Brilliant," said Ollie. "Simple, stupid, likely fatal. But we get to see a dragon up close, so let's do it." They huddled behind the hut for what felt like hours, though it could only have been 20 minutes, until the humming inside faded into snores. Rowan crept to the door, heart hammering. The wood creaked as he pushed it open just enough to peer inside. Hagrid slumped over the table, a mug clutched in one enormous hand, his beard rising and falling with each rumbling snore. Firelight flickered across the hut, throwing huge shadows against the walls. By the hearth, the dragon lay bundled awkwardly in blankets far too small for him. Thin trails of smoke curled lazily from his nostrils each time he breathed, and every so often his tail twitched against the floorboards with a faint scraping sound. Rowan's eyes darted quickly around the hut. "No keys," he whispered. Ollie crouched beside the door, peering anxiously over his shoulder. "What do you mean, no keys? Are they not hanging on a hook?" "Well, there isn't one," Rowan frowned. His eyes shifted toward the enormous moleskin coat hanging beside the fireplace. Of course. "Hagrid's coat," Rowan breathed. Ollie followed his gaze and immediately looked horrified. "Oh no!" The coat hung only a few feet from Norbert. The dragon gave a sleepy snuffle, one amber eye twitching faintly beneath a half-closed lid. Rowan swallowed. "We're already here." "That," Ollie hissed, "is not comforting." Carefully, painfully carefully, Rowan slipped further into the hut. The floor creaked softly beneath him. Norbert shifted in his sleep. A claw scraped against the stone hearth. Rowan froze completely. Hagrid snorted loudly from the table and muttered something incoherent about cabbages before settling back into his thunderous snoring. Very slowly, Rowan kept moving. Norbert's tail stretched across the floor between him and the coat, thick and scaled and faintly steaming near the tip. Ollie's eyes widened. "You're not actually stepping over the dragon." Rowan glanced back at him, then stepped carefully over the tail. For one terrible second, the dragon's tail twitched beneath his foot. Rowan nearly stopped breathing. Norbert let out a low grumbling noise, smoke puffing from his nostrils, then settled again. Ollie looked moments away from fainting. Rowan finally reached the coat. Up close, it smelled strongly of earth, smoke, wet dog, and something strangely metallic. The moleskin pockets sagged heavily with years of collected objects. Slowly, Rowan slid a hand into the first pocket. Something slimy wriggled against his fingers. He recoiled violently, nearly yelping. Ollie mouthed silently. "What was that?" Rowan shook his head quickly and tried another pocket instead. This one was deeper. His fingers brushed cold metal, then fabric, then something smooth and curved. Carefully, he pulled it free. A bright pink umbrella. Ollie stared at it in confusion. Rowan quietly shoved it back into the pocket before either of them could think about it too much. Another snore rattled the hut. Norbert shifted again. Rowan quickly searched deeper through the coat, fingers brushing tangled string, strange tools, what felt suspiciously like a chicken bone. Then, metal. Lots of it. His eyes widened slightly. Slowly, carefully, Rowan pulled free a huge ring of keys. Dozens of them hung together. Rusted keys, silver keys, tiny delicate ones and enormous iron ones, heavy enough to belong on castle gates. They clinked softly together as Rowan steadied them with both hands. Rowan crouched lower beside the coat, trying desperately to stop them rattling while he searched through them one by one. Most looked ordinary, too clean, too new. Then Rowan saw it. A smaller key tucked near the centre of the ring. Dark silver. Strange markings twisted along its stem. The same shifting symbols carved across the chest. "There," he whispered. Ollie leaned forward urgently. "What are you doing? That tiny thing can't possibly be the right key." "Trust me," Rowan breathed. Very carefully he slid the key from the ring. For one perfect moment. Silence. Then, ting! The loose ring of keys scraped against the metal buckle of Hagrid's coat. The sound seemed deafening. Hagrid stirred violently. Norbert's eyes snapped open. A deep rumble rolled through the hut. Smoke curled sharply from the dragon's nostrils as his head lifted. Rowan's heart stopped. "Who's there?" Hagrid bellowed suddenly, chair legs screeching across the floor. Norbert gave an indignant roar that rattled the windows. "Run!" Rowan hissed. He bolted for the door, nearly tripping over Norbert's tail as the dragon lunged upright behind him. Ollie was already halfway outside, panic written all over his face. Behind them came another roar, and a burst of fire lit the inside of the hut bright orange. "Steady, Norbert, steady," Hagrid thundered. The boys sprinted across the grounds, breath tearing in their throats as they ran toward the castle. Rowan clutched the key tightly in his fist the entire way. They didn't stop running until they'd reached the safety of the entrance steps, lungs burning, laughing breathlessly at their own insanity. Ollie leaned against the wall, gasping. "We just stole from Hagrid." Rowan grinned despite himself. "And we're still alive." "Barely." Rowan looked down at the key gleaming in his hand. Heavy, old, the metal warm from him, gripping it too tight. He just knew this had to be the key that opened that chest. The castle loomed above them, silent and black against the stars. Its windows were mostly dark now. Rowan and Ollie slowed as they reached the steps, bent double, gulping air and clutching their sides. "All right," Ollie wheezed. "All we've got to do is get inside, sneak to the corridor and—" He stopped dead. At the top of the steps, lit by a single torch, sat Mrs. Norris. The cat's yellow eyes gleamed like twin lanterns, her tail curling in slow, deliberate movements. She didn't move. She didn't need to. The look alone said, "I've caught you." "Oh no," Ollie muttered. "Not her." Rowan froze, the key clutched tight in his pocket. He could already imagine Filch's voice echoing down the corridor, could almost hear it. "Students out of bed! I'll have your hides for this." "What do we do?" Ollie hissed. "Run? She's faster than she looks." Mrs. Norris's head tilted as if she agreed, and then, Petrificus totalis, a flash of pale blue light whipped across the courtyard. Mrs. Norris went rigid mid-stalk, her tail frozen mid-swish, eyes wide and glassy. Rowan and Ollie spun round. Standing in the shadow of the archway was Margot, the strange girl that always had a nose buried in a book. Her wand was raised, her face calm except for the faintest trace of a smirk. "Go on then," she said. "Don't just stand there gawping. She won't stay stiff forever." Ollie blinked. "Margot? How did you even—" She lowered her wand, tucking it into her sleeve. "There's a ghost flying about, shouting something about a quest for keys and 2 bumbling heroes." Rowan groaned. "The Grey Squire?" Margot nodded once. "I figured if he was telling the truth, you idiots were probably involved. So I followed the noise." "You followed a ghost yelling about a quest and assumed it was us," Ollie said. "You're mad." "Probably," she said, "but it seems to have worked." Mrs. Norris gave a faint twitch. Rowan snapped out of it. "Right. Inside. Now." The 3 of them bolted through the doors, shoes slapping against the stone, laughter bubbling out of them in bursts of panic and relief. When they reached the corridor beyond, they stopped at last, breathless. Margot leaned against the wall, folding her arms. "Next time," she said dryly, "maybe tell your ghost to whisper his quests." Rowan and Ollie exchanged a look, half guilty, half grateful. "We did try," Rowan said. For the first time, Rowan and Ollie didn't look at Margot like she was completely mad, maybe because they were tired, or maybe because she's just saved them from another detention. And together the three of them disappeared down the corridor to the Hufflepuff common room. They were outside the Hufflepuff corridor when a familiar echoing voice broke the quiet. "Aha! Victorious knights returning from battle," Rowan groaned. From a side corridor drifted the grey squire, half gliding, half marching, his ghostly armour rattling like wind chimes. His plumed helmet sat crooked on his head, and his translucent chest puffed out with pride. I sensed it in my very bones. Or, well, where my bones used to be, he declared, brandishing a ghostly quill. "Tell me everything. Did you slay the beast? Did you find the key? Was there peril? There must always be peril." Ollie rubbed his temples. There was peril, all right. Mostly in the form of a giant flesh-eating dragon. "Oh, and Mrs. Norris." The grey squire's eyes widened. "Mrs. Norris? A fearsome opponent. I knew you were up to the task." Margot stifled a laugh. "You do realise we nearly got caught because you were flying about shouting." "Ah." The squire bowed deeply, armour clinking. "A necessary distraction. Every good quest must have a herald, and I, humble servant that I am, have fulfilled that noble duty." Rowan exchanged a look with Ollie. "You could have warned us." "And spoil the suspense? Never!" The ghost swept closer, eyes gleaming with excitement. "But rejoice! Your tale shall be immortalised in song. The bold Barrows and the quest for the Keeper's Key." He flourished an invisible lute and strummed enthusiastically. No sound came out. Ollie grinned. "Maybe stick to getting lost for now." The grey squire sighed dramatically. Art is never appreciated in its time. "Good night, squire," Rowan said, half laughing, steering Ollie and Margot toward the barrel entrance. "Sleep well, gallant champions," the ghost called after them, saluting with all the solemnity of a night before battle. "May your dreams be filled with dragons slain." As the barrel swung open and they climbed inside, Margot glanced back over her shoulder, still smiling faintly. "He's absolutely mad," she murmured. "Yeah," Rowan said, "but he did help us get the key." "Wait, you actually stole a key then? What for?" Margot asked. I'm not sure," Rowan said, not completely comfortable telling Margot he was trying to open a chest that only he could hear talking. "Fine, then don't tell me, but don't expect any more help from me," she replied in almost an unbothered way. "It's not like we asked for help," Ollie replied. This did not end well. Margot looked furious at that comment. She shook her head. "You two are going to get expelled one day." She stormed off. Neither Rowan or Ollie had seen her get angry before. They gave each other a look that said, "Let's not try and annoy her again." They headed to bed. A night full of adventure was finally over. For now, at least. And somewhere in the distance of the Hogwarts corridors, the Grey Squire could be heard faintly humming. Something that might have been a tune about the three brave fools of Hufflepuff.